everyone. Thank you for joining us this Thursday for our second KWGM Wealth Mastermind of the year, formerly called Money Matters Mastermind. We are so excited for our topic today. It is Save Like Crazy, and we have an awesome presenter joining us today, who is Pete Formica. Pete, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about saving like crazy. I know we only got a couple people on the call, but what I want to do is make this interactive if we can. And everybody's got a different kind of opinion on building wealth and what is building wealth. And hopefully today you can walk away with a couple of things that might make you think a little bit. You know, we're all on a different journey. We're all on a different path. A lot of what you're going to hear today is kind of, yeah, duh, I know that. The question you have to ask yourself is, am I practicing that? And are there some things that I could do better or at a higher level? So hopefully today is going to provoke some thoughts for you. And again, a lot of what you're going to see and hear is going to be a lot of basic stuff. It may even slightly resemble some Dave Ramsey stuff. I am endorsed by Dave, and a lot of what he says is pretty common sense. So I know we only got a couple people here on the call, but what would you guys say if I said, what does building wealth mean to you? Anybody?
Sorry, this is Chris. This is class because I'm kind of just starting out with this whole building wealth thing myself. So I just think building for the future, having passive income, trying to set myself up to be more comfortable as I get older.
Yeah, that's great. That's perfect. Appreciate you sharing that. I heard passive income. I heard build for the future. It means building wealth means a lot of different things to a lot of people. I'd be curious, Art or Polly, do you guys have any thoughts on what building wealth means to you guys?
Well, building wealth to me, I've been doing this for a decade, and I had no guidance in building wealth until actually I came to KWGM. And about 5 years ago, somebody that had been in the industry for a while asked me if I'd had a SEP IRA. And I didn't even know what a SEP IRA was. And so I started putting, my husband started taking off, I believe just 8% off of every sale that I closed. He would take taxes off, and then he would take an additional 8% off for a SEP IRA. And that was one of the most beautiful things I think I could have done, because it's my cash, it's what I've earned. And recently, I think, as you all know, like I had needed some cash for one of our family members. And I will tell you, if I hadn't started doing that 5 years ago, it's not time for me to tap in, but sometimes life like gives it to you. Well, this was a gift. This was a gift that I could tap into it and take it out to help a family member. If I wasn't, and I'm not wealthy at all, but if I wasn't in a position of wealth, of having someone tell me that and apply it and do it, I would have never been able to be a giver, a lender, and not a borrower. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Carrie, let me ask you this question. I can only see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. How many people are actually on this call right now? Do you know? Can you tell?
We have 20.
Oh, okay. I wonder how I would be able to, I'm tech challenged, how I'd be able to tell who's all on the call. Gail Grouse says, love Dave Ramsey. Jill Brown says passive income streams. That passive income streams can be a buzzword in the industry, right? Because we're in real estate. Are there truly any passive income streams? There can be. I love that. Just curious, does anybody have anything else? When I say wealth building, what does it mean to you guys? Go ahead and just jump in, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'll go with creating or collecting or preserving assets that fund your life, fund whatever that is, whether that life is your own personal liabilities or generosity, like Polly was talking about. Just, yeah, assets, funding stuff.
Art said assets, funding stuff. I love that. Well, part of what we're going to talk about today is just the basics. How do you get there? You know, Polly, that's awesome that you're 10 years down the road into that, investing into your IRA. And so with 20 people on the call, I would guess, I would actually know that everybody's at a different space, right? So some people are like thinking about, all right, I got 5 more years. Here's what I need to put away. Here's where I need to be. And then there's some people just starting out like, hey, this wealth building thing, you know, this is a great topic. And, you know, what are some of the basic things that I can do, you know, just to get going on this thing. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today is a lot of things that most of the successful people I know have done in order to get there. To me, being wealthy, at this stage of the game for me is being able to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. So am I there yet? No, I do have a 3-year plan to get there and it's written out. So what I would encourage you guys to do is if you hear something today that strikes a chord and it's a gap in your financial analysis or growth, write it down and then revisit that and put a written game plan together, you know, to get there. Maybe share it with your coach, whether it's your teammate or maybe you have an accountability partner in the market center. This stuff is too important, guys, for us to not, you know, make a priority in our lives. I know too many real estate agents who, when tax time comes around, they're worried about actually just paying the taxes, right? Or I know a lot of real estate agents that are really broke, and some of them are top producers. So it doesn't really matter if you're making a lot of money. You can also not be intentional about where that money comes in and where it goes out, if that makes sense. So you see the stages of financial growth on this first slide here. And so what is your net worth? And do you know what your net worth is? It's kind of like this, the scorecard, you know, how much stuff do I own and how much stuff do I owe? So in other words, your house, do you own it free and clear? Or do you even own a house? Your investment properties, do you own those free and clear? What are the balances? You know, what are the balances in your checking? What's the balance in your savings? Do I have any credit card debt? Some of us have debt. Do I have a car loan? You know, just on the left side, it's as simple as getting a spreadsheet and saying, hey, here's all the assets that I have, including, you know, personal property and stuff in my house. You know, if you have a boat, it's worth something. If you have a car, it's worth something. And just listing all of your assets. And then on the other side, listing all of your liabilities, right? I own $1 million worth of stuff, but I owe, you know, hopefully not more than $1 million. I owe 800,000. So the difference is 200K. And actually being intentional about having that written down on a sheet, guys, is a game changer. It's just a game changer. Not relying on your financial planner, but relying on yourself to know, because what's happened in the last couple of years in real estate? Anybody? This is where you get to participate. What's happened to real estate values in the last 3 years?
Been going up and money's been falling out of the sky for us as realtors.
Easy art. There he is. Yeah, values have gone up like 25%. So if 3 years ago you did a value on your house and it was worth 200, it could be worth 250 today. Guess what? Your net worth's up 50K. That's substantial, right? Depending on where you want to be at the end of the day, knowing the worth of your, you know, your investment portfolio, keeping an eye on it, not getting the statement and then just kind of throw it in the pile for tax time, but like looking at it. Is my portfolio of stocks and mutual funds growing if I have them? And if I don't have one, you know, how do I work my way into starting to invest for the future? So under the bottom there is this one's kind of duh. Spend less than you make to accrue savings. It's kind of a noble concept, right? And one of the things I'm going to challenge you on today is like knowing exactly how much you're spending at home and then in your business. I just wonder, and you don't have to shoot your hands up, but how many people really know exactly what their budget is at home and exactly what they're spending, on their business as an agent? Though, wouldn't you agree those are pretty two important numbers to know? And then systematically, as the money comes in, where are all those dollars going? Meaning, do we have a month where we bring in $10,000, our expenses are $5,000, and then we go sign up for Zillow, Realtor.com, and every other thing that, are you guys getting the calls like I am? Hey, are you a real estate agent in the area? I got leads. All you have to give me is blah, blah, blah. Yeah, everybody is, right? Raising their hands. So what happens is you start making a little bit of money because real estate's seasonal, and then oh, wait, I can spend it on this or that. If it's not in the plan, don't spend it. What do they call that? Lead with revenue or red light, green light in the MREA book. On the bottom of this chart or graph, it says financial freedom, passive income exceeding our financial needs. So that's really when you get to the fun part. And there's a bunch of different things. Does anybody have passive income on this call? Yeah, any examples? Art, what do you have, Obleton?
Right off the top of my head, the profit share, that, ABA, things like that.
So title income, profit share. Profit share is a good one, right? Because it just keeps showing up. You don't have to do anything for it. Well, initially at first you introduce somebody, your team leader, Mike Rapaski, and then he takes the rest. You might participate in title share. Rental properties, anybody have rentals on the call? Polly? I know I have an Airbnb, and I've had many different rental properties in the past. They can be a great way as a real estate agent to build wealth, that are passive streams. Also our investments, right? I mean, once we put the money in there and hopefully the market doesn't go down, our investments can be a passive income stream. So the financial awareness, we talked about net worth. So starting out, we need to figure out, hey, exactly what's my net worth? And then I want to challenge you guys on this one. And there's going to be a lot of challenges today, but if you really want to get serious, take a look at this once a month. And then I actually, if you want to email me, pete@safeharborteam.com, I have a really good spreadsheet that calculates all this for you and that has all the categories of net worth. Like it'll ask you, your stocks, your real estate, and it kind of puts it all together for you. I can share that with you. I got one from my financial planner, and I'm starting to use that now. So you see risk tolerance on there. That could be how much cash you feel safe with. Would you guys agree that we need more cash on hand in a shift than we would in a non-shifting market? Would everybody shake their head yes on that one? Because the market's a little unpredictable, right? So if you're sitting on, and whatever your tolerance is, we're going to talk about 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. But I think everybody would on this call would agree if you had 12 months worth of cash. So if let's say your business and your home expenses equal 10 grand a month. There's a difference when you have 30,000 in cash in the bank, or you have let's say you had 120, which is a year full of expenses, right? You're not really sweating the next move. Or if the market slows down a little bit, or you're just, it enables you to really operate at a high level. So we need to get there as fast as we can. Goals, where do you want to be and when do you want to be there? All good stuff. So one of the foundational things to building wealth is just having an emergency fund. And some of you guys might be laughing about that or thinking, duh. Does anybody know what percentage of Americans have $1,000 in their savings account? Guess? Can anybody guess? This is kind of a Dave Ramsey thing. So the first thing you should do is have $1,000 in an emergency fund. Anybody want to take a guess at how many out of 10 have $1,000 saved?
40%.
Who said that?
Satrina.
Satrina. Boom.
Well,
My name is Satrina and I am bold. Yeah, it's actually 40% on the nose. 4 out of 10
Yeah,
people.
I cheated. Mike told us yesterday.
Oh, did he? Okay. Okay. Because he
So I
was talking to
remembered,
me.
so I get some credit for remembering.
Well, good job. And when I first heard that, I was like, really? If you think about it,
That's hard to believe.
yeah, but if you think about it, like, let's say the brakes go on the car and you go to the shop or the tires or something. How much does that cost now? $1,000, right? I mean, it used to be 500. When I go to the garage, no matter what it is, it's never less than 500 and it's more like 800 or 900, right? And it's kind of like, man, I'm in the wrong business. But anyways, having that $1,000 is getting to that as quickly as possible is really foundational. So if you're not there, get there. And one of the things we're going to talk about for this, emergency fund. And if you're in a space right now where you're like, man, I can't even think about building wealth. I have debt. I can't see the way to saving money. This call is for you and there is hope for you. Focusing on just this one thing at a time. We've all been there at one point in our life, getting to that $1,000 as fast as possible, and then putting it in a spot where you can't get at it. Meaning, I might bank with PNC, so I'm going to go open an account with Huntington, and I'm going to put this $1,000 in there, and I'm only going to use it for an emergency. I'm not going to use it to go out to the club, Art Obleton. I'm just kidding. I want to see if you were paying attention. Because the truth is, if all of our accounts are linked, and I don't know if you're like me and you can see the money in there, it's pretty easy to just say, well, I'll just move it over. With technology, it makes it really super easy. So the idea is put it in a separate spot. And sometimes people have to lock it somewhere, an actual spot, so they don't use it until there's an emergency. So analyzing your spending is a good thing. Mike has probably talked a lot about remargining expenses, shift tactic number 2. I'm sure he has. We've talked about it on my own team. And I know as a business over the last year, I've cut a tremendous amount, knowing that the market was going to slow down a little bit. And so what in your business right now is absolutely not necessary. I mean, I'm sure there's some things you're spending money on, even if it's, I don't know, $19 a month. There's a really good book. It's called The Membership Economy. Has anybody heard of it? Yeah, no, yes. And it just talks about how, you get Amazon gets you for $16, and then you got all your streaming services. They're like $9, $15, $20. Go through all those and look at that. And I think, if you're looking to really start to get radical about your wealth building, meaning build up the cash reserves or even save more for retirement, the question you ask yourself is, do I really need this right now? Right? How often, because I got some 299s in there. My wife's like, what is that? Because we did this recently. And I'm like, I don't know. I think it's extra storage on Apple. Apple's really good about this, by the way. Am I the only one that they get for $2.99 or $12.99 or whatever the heck else it is? And those things, we're smiling and we're laughing, but they add up. At the end of the day, $10 a month is $120 a year. If that was placed in a mutual fund earning 10%, what would that look like after 10 years at $10 a month? If you follow me, right? So it can add up quickly. So analyzing every single cent that is kind of going out the door, both at home and at work, and eliminating the luxuries. There's things that we enjoy and there's things that we could go without. And I think if you're in a space where you're like, man, I'm not where I want to be, I have a little bit of debt, or I haven't hit my financial goals, I think we can go without some stuff, can't we? I know I didn't have cable TV for, I think it was like 10 years or something like that. And then when I got it, I was like, there's too many channels. Like, I don't know, and everybody's got a different like thing. And everybody's in a different space. But I know that cable bill can be, I'm paying 125 for Spectrum on my Airbnb rental. And that's a cost of business, right? That's in my budget. People come in, they're spending $200 a night to stay. They expect, you can do all the streaming, but we've decided that's part of our business model. Let me advance the screen here. So we've got $1,000 saved. We're doing really good. So anybody heard of the debt snowball? Does anybody know about that? Yeah, Art Wells is shaking his head. Art Obleton.
Actually, my husband and I are going to be looking at the debt snowball here very shortly, and I don't know how it's going to go, but we're going to start trying to apply it. Scary stuff, but I think it's good.
That's awesome, Polly Lorenzo. And what I would tell you is in bold, they say, I intend to. There is no try, I intend.
Intend.
And what you said is true. You need to, some of us have significant others. We really need to make a commitment. And you may have good debt. To me, Dave doesn't like any debt at all. However, I would say if you have a leveraged asset that's cash flowing, that could be good debt. However, if you line up those mortgages, let's say you had 5 rental properties and you just said, you know what, my goal is to pay off 1 a year for the next 5 years, or 1 a year, or 1 every 2 years for the next 10 years or something like that, and putting a plan together, and you start with 1 and you take all the extra cash flow and you just pay down that mortgage. But specifically with debt like credit cards, unsecured consumer debt, any type of loans or anything that you have, you want to take a look at those, write them down, write down what your balances are, what's your interest rate. You might have a credit card that's 22 to 24%, and it might be a small balance, but it's every month. If you notice, if you've ever looked at a credit card, it's mostly interest, right? Until you really start paying above and beyond, because they're happy to send you, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, when you get a credit card, they're happy to send you the minimum payment's only $35, right? And when you pay it, they're happy to receive that $35 every month for the next 18 years, right? And then at the end of the day, you look up and you're like, man, I have this credit card. The balance is still $6,000 or $8,000. And it's been there for like 2 years. I need to get rid of this thing. And as well-intentioned as we are, if we don't get very intentional about it, in other words, let's say you had 3 debts, and take the smallest one first and just take all the extra cash, pay the minimums on the other ones, so knowing what they are, write down debt 1, 2, debt 3, and debt 1 has a balance of 2,000, debt 2 is 4,000, and debt 3 is 6. Pay the minimums on 2 and 3, and then on number 1, just pay as much as you can. If the minimum's $50, maybe you start at $100, and then maybe it's 200, and just all your extra cash goes towards paying off the debt. And this means you're not investing in your 401ks, you're not building your cash reserves. You need to get this debt off the board as soon as possible. And you'll see, you'll get a momentum. That's why they call it the snowball. One other thing too that's kind of interesting, type this out and put it on your refrigerator, or type this thing out and put it on a mirror, or type it out and put it on the inside of your binder, and then kind of look at it. And the more that you think about it, the more that you'll move towards it. There's a really good book called Think and Grow Rich. Has anybody ever read that? Napoleon Hill. And I can't see everybody on the call, so I apologize. I don't have skilled technology. I can only see a handful of you. But Napoleon Hill says we become, what we think about most of the time. So if we think about like, all right, what are some things that I need to do that are absolute non-negotiables to build wealth? And paying off debt, in my opinion, folks, is the game changer. Because if you're not debt-free right now, and let's say debt-free means you just have a mortgage on your primary. If you're not completely debt-free right now, that means you're paying a credit card company or a bank interest that you could be using to build wealth. And in these times where it becomes difficult, that becomes really important. So step 2 is pay off the debt with the snowball. And if you can set it somewhere, whether it's on your screensaver or someplace that you see it all the time, and have regular meetings with somebody else that's a decision maker in your family, like, hey, the number one thing we need to do in 2023 is pay off these 2 debts. And we're going to start off with number 1. And I want you to, because somebody's the bill payer in the family, right? Somebody's the spender, somebody's the saver. And if you're both the spenders, you're in trouble. So I'm actually the spender. My wife's the saver. I've become the saver and, the profit and loss person out of necessity. Okay. This says earn more, give more, organize all your debt, pay the minimum, eliminate the smallest, roll it forward. So that last one's relevant. You pay off the first debt and you can have like a little party for the moment, buy yourself a cup of coffee and say, look at it, it's gone. And then you have that much more to pay off on the next one, right? So if you're paying 2 minimums of $200 a month, and then you had been paying $400 a month on that first debt, now all of a sudden you got the $200 a month for the minimums and $400 a month to go to that second debt or credit card. And so it really can add up fast. So step 3 is expand the emergency fund. What would you guys, and this is after we paid off our debt. So we got $1,000 in the bank and we just paid off all our debt. And this would not include the mortgage. So it's a pretty good spot to be. No debt. You got a mortgage on the house and you're looking at like, how can I expand my reserves? What do you guys feel comfortable with from a cash reserve standpoint? Anybody? We got
Whoops.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Art.
Typically 3 to 6 months as you work a job, but as business people, have our business, we should really have 12 months.
12 months is ideal. Who's savvy? Who's savvy said 6 months. I don't know who that is in the chat.
I do a year.
A year is good. Gail
I said
Grau
at
said,
least 6 months.
Gail Grau is using Quicken to log all my expenses and income. That's really good. That's actually another topic, using Quicken or QuickBooks. And then actually, if you're not comfortable with that, having a bookkeeper. I know that there's some independent folks out there that don't charge a lot that will help you when we talk about generating profit and loss statements and income and expense statements for your business. There's also a chart of accounts in the MREA. Are you guys familiar with that? Where it shows you like, hey, for admin staff, if you had to hire an admin, you should be at 12 to 15% of your gross commission. For lead generation, you should spend 9% of your GCI. So there's percentages and guardrails in there in the MREA that can be really helpful. And I've been looking at profit and losses and coaching on that for a while. So I'd be happy to, if you wanted to shoot me your P&L and say, hey, what do you think? I'd be happy to kind of take a peek at that. Because that's really important that we're not overspending in certain categories in our business. So everybody has said somewhere between 6 and 12. The rule of thumb is you got to have at least 3 months worth of cash, right? Because you have to have those cash reserves, because do closings fall out once in a while? Am I the only one?
No,
Oh, never.
The
Never.
closings blow up. Monica Woodman's never had a closing that has blown up. I see her on the call now. It's kind of funny, right? As an agent, one year of savings. I agree with that. People are still coming in the chat. I love it. It just gives you a confidence. So first you have to know, like, how much money do I need every month to survive? Exactly. And then how much do I have in the bank right now? And then what's the plan to expand the emergency fund? And I think you might say, well, geez, I'm just on straight commission. I don't know. Well, is there a way to predict? I mean, do you have a pipeline? Like, are you looking at like what's coming in 30 days? What's coming in 60 days? What's coming in 90 days? I have a spreadsheet that kind of tracks my closings, and it'll show, hey, I have 4 this month, 8 next month, 6 the following month. And there's simple ways to kind of even take a look at that. You could just take a ledger and write down, hey, I have 2 closings coming in January, I have 2 in February and 3 in March. And here's my projected income for the next 90 days. And my overhead is $4,000 a month, but I have 6 coming in, $6,000 a month for the next 3 months. Well, where's that extra $6,000 going to go? I mean, if you have the ability to, I would argue that if your debt's paid, everything's paid except for the house, that extra $6K goes over into the money market account, and that beefs up the emergency fund, because you never know. Did anybody experience a slowdown in like June, July, and August of last year? Like, it wasn't yeah, me too. Like, it wasn't a normal selling season. It was like, is this summer? Is this a normal summer? And I think we would all agree that it was kind of off. So real estate can be, somebody said, important to plan out before you spend the money. I agree with that too. Put in 1 year, somebody else said. So a lot of people are saying a year, which, you know, can be daunting, right, for some of us. So if you're not at 3 months, get to 3 months as quick as you can be. And if you're not generating enough leads and enough closings to get to 3 months, what do you need to do in order to get there, right? So I think it's kind of basics. Are you making 10 to 20 contacts every day in your real estate business? I know this isn't about lead gen, and I know you guys don't want to hear this. I'm preaching to the choir, though. If I'm not where I want to be financially, aren't there some things that we can do in our job that can increase income? Is that a fair question? Yes. All right, Art, we'll see you later. He's got to head out. But you know, it's all about, you know, this red light, green light thing with expenses and then income. We can do 2 things, right, around building wealth and finances. One is cut expenses, right? So we cut our expenses way down, but if we're not generating any income, we're not going to have any reserves. We're not going to have any cash to invest. So we really need to focus in on those activities that are generating the closings. The other thing I would say around that is, if you are generating the closings, be super intentional about not spending that money, saving it for the rainy day. I mean, even if you don't know what you want to do with it, throwing it over to the side in a separate, you know, I have just, in Profit First says have 5 accounts, but I just have 2. One's a checking and then one's a money market. And one thing I do at the beginning of the month is I'll write a check to the checking account. The expenses are, let's say they're 10K. I'm using a round number, and I have 100 in the money market. Well, I don't put 90 into the checking so I can go have fun at the casino. I put 10,000, right? I put 10,000 into the checking account. And then if I hit 10, it's kind of like, all right, wait a minute. There's only 14 days in the month and I've already spent all the money. What was out of whack this month? And so you can kind of take because sometimes we have expenses that are like our dues come up in January, right? Fair enough. You get all the bills in January for whatever reason. You have a bunch of renewals. So instead of, 5,000, maybe your bills were 8, and you look at it and you go, okay, I had these costs this month that I won't have, but it's constantly analyzing, that spending. And as the revenue comes in, constantly padding the emergency fund. Trying to advance this slide. It's not working for me. Oop. Okay. Invest 15% of your income. So you guys are at this point in the game, you guys are killing it. You've paid off all your debt. You started off with that first $1,000. You paid off all your debt. And then you guys have 12 months worth of expenses. And I don't necessarily think that you need 12. I do think you need 3 to 6. So whatever that comfort number is for you, let's say it's 6 months of expenses and your monthly overhead's $5,000. So you got 30 grand in the bank. You have no debt and you're like, hey, I'm doing good. I'm starting to get regular closings. Now what? So step 4 would be investing 15% of what you're bringing in towards retirement. And that could mean a lot of different things, right? Polly had mentioned IRAs, and I'm not going to go deep on IRAs and mutual funds and stocks or Bitcoin or crypto or anything like that. However, I would say that you need to have people in your life that are in the know. So you need to have a good financial advisor and planner. And I would talk to 3 different people like, hey, I'm really starting to do well. I have enough cash here and I'd like to set up a 401k or a self-directed IRA. That's a big buzz term you hear out there and not a lot of people know about those, but self-directed IRAs are things that you can use to invest in real estate and earn income tax-free. You can also have a self-directed Roth IRA, which can be amazing. People have built massive wealth through self-directed IRAs. There's a company called Equity Trust right out of Westlake too that is a good resource there. John Bowen's a friend of mine. He deals with those, and the more that you guys know about like investing, real estate investing, the more we can kind of talk turkey with our clients, right? Anybody deal with people who buy investment properties? Anybody? Yeah, I know some of you guys do. I do. And we're not investment advisors. We're not CPAs. We're not attorneys. And yet, if we can talk about cash flow of a property, with an investor and we can do it intelligently, ROI, return on investment. Hey, if you put $100,000 cash in this property, you're going to get a 12% return, right? And knowing those kind of things are really helpful as agents, like looking at the numbers, being able to analyze the investment. I love it. I was on Facebook the other day and this agent put this thing out there, and Polly, you were probably on the thread. And I was just like, all right, hey, hurry. It was like 2 8-unit buildings, 56,000 a unit. Hurry, they're going to sell. They're great. And I'm like, all right, if you're getting 500 in rent and they were vacant, how is that a good investment? Was that a fair question?
I did the quick math on it, and at 500 per unit, it only came up to like 44 or 45,000 a year. And yet they're saying the expenses were 56 or 58 a year. And I'm like, how does this work out that this is a good investment? It was the quick math didn't show it.
Well, because a lot of agents and a lot of investors don't know their numbers. So when you know your numbers, and it's really simple, like if you're selling a property for $500,000 and the investor is going to put 20% down, get out your cell phone and Google mortgage calculator and call your local mortgage guy. Hey, what's the investment, rate? It's 7%, 20 years, plug that in. Your payments, $4,000 a month. Here's what your taxes are, your insurance are, here's what the utilities are. And with the down payment of 100,000 on 500, you can make 12,000 back or whatever the number is. It's really not a rocket science equation to come up with a cash on cash return for an investment for an investor. And oftentimes real estate agents who should be the experts are just throwing it out there just to try to make a sale because, hey, it's an 8 year. I'm like, what are you going to live in it? If you're going to live in it, that's a different story. But if you're not, you need to know what your ROI is. So there's some different type of things we can invest in: stocks and bonds, pre-tax dollars, retirement accounts. So what is good about pre-tax dollars? Does anybody know? No, we don't pay tax on it. So you can invest in certain vehicles that if it's coming out of so for instance, the market center is going to send you probably $5,000 for a commission and you say, hey, send it over to, my broker. They're going to put it into my, retirement account. You don't pay tax on it now. Now you may pay tax on it later, but not paying tax on it now can be a big blessing. And I would consult with, again, your financial planner and whoever else that your spouse or whatever to figure out, because you may want to just say, hey, 15%, we can actually do 20%. And every check, if it's, let's say our average commission is $10,000, we're going to put $2,000 into retirement. Well, you might want to fund your IRAs right from the market center. And I might be speaking out of school, but I think that if you directed the office, Carrie, to send your money somewhere, I believe that they can do that, but you have to talk to them about it. So, and there are certain things like stocks and bonds that are longer term, and there's shorter term things. So just keep that in mind as you're investing. Step 5 is save for college. Now, we might not all have kids, and we might be past that. So this isn't, for everybody. So there's certain plans out there, 529 plans. Carrie Mitchell, yes, we can. If you give Julia or Erica a separate bank account info, we can separate your closings into the 2 accounts. That's awesome. You know what else that made me think about, you guys? Have you ever wanted to go to like a family reunion or like do some sort of thing like Bold, and you thought, man, I don't have the money? This systematized approach, and even giving, we're going to talk about giving in a second. Let's say you did 2 deals a month, you did 24 deals, and you set aside $100 a deal. I'm not a mathematician, but I think that's $2,400, 24 deals at $100. So if you could invest it, or you could have it for like family reunion, or maybe even it's giving. But by having the market center, I know they have education accounts. And Carrie is saying, yes, training savings is awesome. Yes, they can. That's Trina coming in again. That is a really good way to save money. It's kind of like a set it and forget it type of thing. I want 100 out of every closing to go over here, and at the end of the year you kind of look up and you got $2,000 or $3,000. So let's keep that in mind. So ways to save for college. Go over this really quick. Let's see if I can get to that screen. Anybody heard of a 529 plan? Do we know what that is? 529 plan is an education savings account that you can put X dollars in every year, and it's pre-tax, right? So let's say you had a kid that was going to college and you wanted to put away $2,000 a year, you could slip it over into a 529. That's a really nice vehicle. Scholarships are a bonus. They shouldn't be the only path. So if you're the one that says, hey, you know what? I paid for college, you should pay for it. That's great, right? Let your kids know up front. Doesn't mean you can't use one of these plans and save some money. And then, you know, maybe 10 years down the road, you got 30 or 40,000 in this account, and you can talk to them about, you know, how you want to gift it to them. Maybe you want to give them a gift when they get married. I don't know if anybody has adult children. I'm not there yet. However, you know, there are some ways to give your kids money as gifts and receive tax benefits as well. Buy a property as an eventual college cash out. That's a really good idea. So you could buy a rental property when they're young, and maybe it's a duplex or a 4-family, and it's just kind of cash flowing. You pay it off, and then all of a sudden, geez, you know, Jerry or Susie is old enough now to go to college, sell the property, you get, you know, a couple $100,000, and that might even pay for 4 years of college at this point. College is getting expensive, right? It's not getting any cheaper. So plan for the worst. Step 6, and I'm going to try to respect time. I know we were scheduled to go to 12, is pay off your house. So there's a bunch of different ways we can do that. Paying twice a month. I don't know what the avoid the spending creep is, but pay every 15 days. So there's some bi-weekly programs. You can do that, or you could pay one extra payment a year. One of the things that I did, which was intentional, was I did a 15-year mortgage. You guys ever seen an AM schedule, amortization schedule on a 30-year loan, when they show you all the payments and like they roll the paper out and you like have a heart attack? Anybody seen that but me? And you're like, if you pay off your house by, you know, 2056, you'll have paid, you know, $2 million in interest on a $200,000. I'm being funny, but it's, you know, the amount of interest that you pay on a 30 versus a 15. And I'm going to pick on Art Obleton. He jumped off the call. He called me a couple of years ago and he was refinancing. And he said, what do you think? I said, well, can you afford to do a 15-year loan? He said, yeah, absolutely. I said, because everybody says, hey, I'll just make extra payments. You heard that one before? This is awesome. My rate is 2.85%. I'll just make extra payments. And then what happens? Life happens. And then we're just like, we're not intentional. But when you have a 15-year mortgage, all of a sudden, hey, the bill comes. And I'm not saying take on more of a monthly payment than your budget says you should. But I'm saying if you could refinance down to a 15, if you have a 30 and it makes sense, do that. So you can pay off your house quicker. You can also pay bi-weekly. A lot of these lenders have bi-weekly programs. You know, paying twice a month, the second goes to principal. You can send your mortgage company a payment anytime and just say, hey, I'd like to put this towards principal. And if you're, you know, at that point where you have 6 months of cash reserves, you're saving 15% towards retirement, and then you actually have some extra cash flow, you may want to sit down, you know, with the other decision maker in the house and just say, listen, we actually have $10,000 a year where we can just keep paying this principal down, and let's set a goal of paying the house off in the next, you know, 3 or 4 years. I actually had a 15 and I had a really good rate, and I looked at it and I'm like, well, why not just go to a 10? Let's just get this thing done. So I had Don Jarecki, Cross Country Mortgage, love Don, love Sean Hadley too. Put me on a 10-year at 2.875 when rates were in the basement. You guys remember that? That was just a year ago. And now it's like, when you look at your payment, a 15-year is mostly principal. A 10-year, is like all principal. It really starts to get exciting because you're looking at you get that statement and you're like, man, I only owe X. And then the next month it's going down and so on and so forth. And that's when it really starts to get fun. So if you can refinance down to a lower, either a lower interest rate to create more cash flow or a lower term, I would highly recommend that.
Pete,
Yep.
it's Gail Grau. I have a question for you. I am a Dave Ramsey fan, definitely. And I mean, he helped me and my husband last year. We became debt free, besides our house. And I'm like on baby step 4. Okay. My question to you is this, because he never really answers it. And believe me, I listen to everything. We are going to buy another house in 3 to 4 years. Okay. I have the money to pay off the current house that we are in. My question is this: do I pay off this house at a 3.25% interest rate to then buy another in 3 to 4 years? Or do I just hold on to that money and use that so that I could pay, between a lot of different things, I could pay cash for the next house?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
And I don't know what to do.
No, I love that question. And, it's all going to depend on, and I'm not going to ask you, Gail, how old you are.
Old. I'm ready, in 3 to 4 years, I'm retiring. Okay.
Right. So you're ready to retire. Right.
Right.
And I think what you have to ask yourself, so it sounds like you have the cash to pay off your house.
Correct.
And what is that cash doing right now? Is it sitting in like a savings account? Is it
No,
in mutual funds?
It's in mutual funds.
Okay. So it's actually growing at this point.
Well, if you call it that.
Right. Well, and I think it's actually like, there's also a comfort level. Like if you pay off your house and you're not paying, even at 3%, like there's a cost, right? So whether it's $1,000 a month or $1,200 a month or whatever
Right.
your number is, if that's paid off and that helps you sleep at night, then that could be the right thing for you to do. If it's not, and you want to just keep doing what you're doing and you're earning money in your portfolio, and you still have access, like you want to be able to, when you buy this next one, I'm assuming you want to pay cash, right?
Correct.
So I think you're okay if you stay at where you're at, and I don't think it's wrong if you pay off your house. The problem is, and what I would say is, if you pay off your house, I would get a home equity line of credit.
I already have one.
You do? Okay.
Yes.
So, but I would make sure, like, if you paid off the house, that you have a home equity line to like 80%, because if something happens and you guys, can't show any income, or you're disabled or something, and you need access to that capital, that could be a problem. But it sounds like you're in a great space. Congratulations on paying off all your debt.
Thank you.
Awesome. I have nothing but respect for that. And congratulations on being in a position, where you could pay off your primary. The market's going to go up and it's going to go down. And you're really in a good space. I don't think that you need to pay off your house. I mean, you could if you want to.
That's what I thought.
I don't necessarily think you do. If it makes you sleep at night, that's okay. But if you pull that money out of the market, is there a cost to doing that?
No,
There's
not
not.
really. No.
Okay. Well, then it's really up to you. I think you're just really in a good spot, and congratulations, and keep saving and you're,
Oh, I am.
and you're probably into this build wealth and give back phase. You're probably starting to think about,
Yes.
like where it really gets nice. So how do we leave a legacy? How do we really earn more, give more? We talked earlier, and we only have about 10 minutes, so I'll wrap up with this. We talked about other investments, having investment properties, having interest in title, having profit share, giving to charities, investing in other businesses, online businesses, and some other different things. When you get to the point where, the house is paid off, you got 6 to 12 months worth of cash, you're putting 15% away for retirement. The kids' college fund is funded or they're out of college. And you're just in this space where you're kind of humming along and you're just like, all right, what do we do now? It's a sweet spot to be in, you know? And I would say, as far as investing at this point, it's like, what are you comfortable with? You know, there was a lot of people that said Bitcoin, crypto, all this other stuff. You know what? I don't know about any of all that, and I never did. So I didn't invest in that. What I do know is real estate and real estate investments. So I invested a lot of my capital into a townhome development. And once that money comes back out, I'm going to tax defer exchange into an apartment building. And I'll be in that passive income space where it's kind of fun, you know. I don't have to show up to a listing appointment if I don't want to, or, you know, I don't have to go to the Tuesday meeting, although Mike's interesting if I don't want to, or I can Zoom in from Florida on the beach. I know Polly has a place down there. But the other thing about earn more, give more is it gets really fun when you can say, hey, KW Cares, I can write you a check for $10,000 because there's a real need here. Polly, you mentioned a need. You know, and some of us have had personal needs in the past, and there's always good, like we all have charities that are important to us and stuff like that. And there's a lot of good causes out there. Well, money is good for what? Does anybody know the answer to that? Money is good for what? Carrie Mitchell, she's the winner. Ding, 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 ding. The good that it can do, right? So money is not necessarily a bad thing. Money is a good thing because when we have wealth, when we build wealth, then we have more options to help more people. Wouldn't it be great if every time somebody called you and said, hey, I have a need, you know, that you could fill the need and just not even have to worry about it because you've been strategically along the way, systematically, you know, building your wealth. We got a couple minutes left. Let's open up the floor if anybody has any questions or comments. It is noon. If you have to jump off, that's okay. Polly, you have something you want to ask?
I have two. The first comment is really when I became self-employed, my husband audits and he's an auditor, so he spends no money. I'm the spender. But the first thing we did without anyone like telling us, he was so worried he couldn't sleep at night because how do we pay taxes, you know, when I'm self-employed? So he just took 30% off of every single sale that I closed, 30% off. And like I said, we didn't even start taking 7 or 8% off until 6 or 7 years later, you know what I mean, for SEP IRA. But it was a beautiful thing when tax time came around and the cash was there to pay my taxes. That was the best thing that we could have done to sleep well at night. So make sure that the IRS is paid. Don't stress over it. I would say there's too many other things to stress about. And the second part is, I give to dog organizations because that's where my heart is. But then when I joined KW, I give a little bit to KW Cares. I think this year I gave 500 was my goal for the whole year, you know, so I gave that. I never, ever thought I would be in a position ever to need help. And I'm not going to cry, but KW Cares, they literally helped where we needed help. And I just think it's just an amazing thing. So if you have $5 or $50, it's just a beautiful thing to go to real things in the community and real people. It's not like frivolous fluff stuff that KW Cares does. So anyways, that's it.
Thank you for being transparent and sharing. That's what makes a great mastermind. I love that, Polly. The one thing I heard her say, which is super, super important, don't gloss over it, put aside at least 20% and maybe as much as 30% for tax time. And the worst case scenario is you'll have that extra money set aside to, you know, save or invest if you don't actually owe Uncle Sam. Anybody else have anything that they want to add or ask? I know we went over a bunch of stuff in this hour and we probably didn't cover everything, but let's see, there's a chat. Gail says, thank you. No problem, Gail. It's my pleasure. part of my giving back to the Keller Williams community is anytime Michael Rapaski asks me to teach, that's my passion. I believe that we've been given experiences by the good Lord so that we can pass them on to others. And certainly when we treat our money the right way, and we know when every dollar is coming in and going out, and we're good stewards of that money, he's going to give you more of it. And then it gets exciting. Polly's right. Give it to KW Cares if you can. Give it to the local animal shelter. Whoever you're passionate about, just give to as many people as you can. Okay, everybody. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your time today. Go out there and sell some houses.